All right, let's talk about a really fascinating tool that, sits behind some of the biggest financial decisions in the world. They're called economic scenario generators. And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around them is to think of a flight simulator, but one that simulates the entire economy.
But let's start with the big question. How on earth do you plan for something 50 years from now? I mean, it's a huge challenge for any of us, right? But just imagine your entire business, your entire promise to your customers depends on getting that right.
Yeah, because we're not just talking about some casual 5-year plan. We are talking about trillions, with a T, trillions of dollars. Money that's locked up in pensions and insurance policies. Money that absolutely, positively has to be there for people decades down the road, no matter what happens. The stakes, they just couldn't be any higher.
So how do these massive institutions even begin to tackle that kind of uncertainty? Well, they have a secret weapon, a powerful, powerful tool. You guessed it, a simulator for the economy.
It's officially called an economic scenario generator, or ESG for short. And what it is, at its heart, is a super sophisticated computer model. But here's the key. It doesn't try to predict one future. No way. Instead, it simulates thousands, even tens of thousands, of different possible economic futures. Everything from a boring, straight and narrow path to some really wild, extreme scenarios.
And that brings us right back to our flight simulator idea. Think about it. When you're training a pilot, you don't just have them practice perfect landings on sunny days, right? You throw everything at them. Engine failures, crazy turbulence, freak storms, the whole shebang. That is exactly what an ESG does for a company's finances. It stress tests their entire business against all these different economic weather patterns, just to see if it can fly through the storm.
Now, these incredible tools didn't just pop up overnight. Go back before the 1970s, and finance was all about these simpler models with really rigid, almost naive assumptions. But then, the 70s happened. You had major financial turmoil, huge market crashes, and suddenly everyone saw just how fragile those old models were. So fast forward to the 80s, you get this explosion in computing power, and boom, it created the perfect conditions for these powerful new simulators to be born, specifically designed to handle the chaos the old models just couldn't see.
So what do these simulators actually do? Well, this is where it gets really cool. They kind of operate in two totally distinct worlds. And each world is built to answer a completely different but equally critical question. So these two modes have completely different jobs. On one side, you've got the real-world simulation. This is the flight simulator we've been talking about. It's all about asking what could actually happen to us. What if inflation goes nuts? What if the market tanks? It's all about managing risk. But then, on the other side, you have this risk-neutral world. This one's way more mathematical. Its job is to figure out a fair, consistent price for complex financial products right now, based on everything we already know about the market. So one's about preparing for the future, the other is about being consistent today.
Okay, so how in the world does one of these things build a potential future from scratch? It sounds crazy, right? Let's pop the hood for a second and see how it works.
Now, I know this looks really complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty brilliant. It's called a cascade structure, and really it's just a way of building a simulated economy one logical step at a time. It makes sure that all the different pieces fit together perfectly, so the whole thing is stable and, actually makes sense.
And the most important part is that it builds from the ground up. The model always starts with the absolute foundation of the financial world, risk-free interest rates. Once that's in place, it layers on the next piece, maybe something like inflation, which of course is influenced by interest rates. And only then does it start adding things like stock markets and bonds, because their behavior depends on everything that came before. See? Each step just flows logically from the last.
So now we can start to see how it all comes together. You have thousands of scenarios, these two different worlds, this clever cascade structure, and it all serves one purpose: helping these huge institutions get ready for a future that is deeply, deeply uncertain. And believe me, the list of who uses these things is long. You've got life insurers who need to make sure the promises they made on policies are rock solid. You have pension plans trying to figure out if our retirement money can survive the next big crash. Even government regulators use them to check the health of the entire financial system. Basically, if you're managing huge amounts of money over a really long time, you need one of these.
And this quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. At the end of the day, the value of an ESG isn't about getting a single prediction right. It's about testing your plans against a whole universe of possibilities, not just the one you hope for.
And if you take away only one thing, let it be this: an economic scenario generator, it is not a crystal ball.
It will never, ever tell you what is going to happen.
No, its real power is so much more important than that. It builds resilience. It makes sure that the institutions we all count on are strong enough to handle whatever the future decides to throw at them, good or bad.